The Rise and Fall of Nikita Dragun. How she built a beauty empire and found herself at the center of the internet's biggest debates. The girl who refused to hide. Imagine spending your entire childhood feeling like the world expected you to be someone you were never meant to be. Every morning, looking into the mirror, knowing something didn't feel right, yet having no words to explain it. Now imagine growing up while millions of strangers watched every step of your journey, every success, every mistake, every transformation. That was the reality of Nikita Dragun. To some, she became a symbol of confidence. To others, she became one of the internet's most controversial creators. But regardless of what people believed, almost everyone agreed on one thing: nobody could ignore her. This is the story of one of social media's most talked about beauty influencers. A story filled with ambition, reinvention, extraordinary success, public controversy, and the enormous pressure that comes with living your life online. This is the rise and the challenges of Nikita Dragun. A child who never felt like she fit in. Long before millions of followers, before makeup tutorials, before magazine covers, there was simply a child trying to understand where they belonged. Nikita was born Nicolas Muyen in Belgium on January Bamemot Modnien Chincham Chime Sao, and later grew up in Virginia in the United States. She comes from a multicultural family with Vietnamese and Mexican heritage. Growing up, she has shared publicly that she often struggled with questions about identity, not only because of her cultural background, but because she felt different from the expectations placed upon her. School was not always easy. Like many young people who feel different, she has spoken about experiencing bullying, confusion, and loneliness. Those experiences would later shape the person millions of people came to know online. Because before she became an influencer, before she built an empire, she was simply searching for acceptance. Discovering makeup. For many people, makeup is fashion. For Nikita, it became something much deeper. It became a form of self-expression, a way to present herself to the world in a way that felt authentic. She spent countless hours learning techniques, watching beauty creators, practicing looks, experimenting with different styles. Every brushstroke, every color, every lesson was helping her build confidence. Long before companies paid influencers thousands of dollars to review cosmetics, Nikita was simply fascinated by beauty. She wasn't thinking about becoming famous. She just wanted to become herself. The beginning of YouTube. Before TikTok dominated the internet,
YouTube was where many creators built their careers. Nikita began uploading beauty videos, sharing makeup tutorials, product reviews, and pieces of her personal journey. At first, the audience was small. Growth was slow. Like thousands of other creators, she faced the uncertainty of wondering whether anyone would ever notice her content. Creating videos required patience, Hours of filming, editing, learning, uploading, then starting all over again. Success didn't happen overnight. It was built one video at a time. Little by little, people began discovering her channel. Many viewers appreciated not only her makeup skills, but also her willingness to share personal experiences. Her audience grew because they felt they were watching a real person, not a carefully manufactured celebrity. A journey shared with millions.
One of the defining aspects of Nikita's online presence was her openness about her gender transition. Rather than hiding that chapter of her life, she chose to speak about it publicly. For many viewers, especially young people questioning their own identities, her videos became deeply meaningful. They saw someone discussing difficult experiences with honesty, someone willing to answer questions, share emotions, and document major milestones. Supporters praised her courage. Others criticized her for reasons ranging from prejudice to disagreements about her online persona. The internet reacted the way it often does, with admiration, debate, and endless opinions. Regardless of where people stood, Nikita's visibility made her one of the most recognizable transgender creators on social media. The beauty community takes notice. As her subscriber count climbed, major beauty brands began paying attention.
Collaborations followed. Invitations arrived. Events, photoshoots, industry connections. Soon, Nikita wasn't just another YouTuber. She had become part of the rapidly growing beauty influencer community. It was an exciting time. Beauty creators were becoming celebrities. Some launched businesses. Some appeared in mainstream media. Some earned millions through sponsorships. For Nikita, the opportunities seemed limitless. Her confidence, fashion, and bold personality made her impossible to overlook. Whether people loved her or criticized her, they kept watching. And on social media, attention often translates into influence. The explosion of TikTok. Then, everything changed once again. TikTok exploded across the world. Millions of users joined the platform. Creators who already had audiences on YouTube and Instagram suddenly found an entirely new stage. Nikita embraced it. Short videos, fast edits, beauty transformations, lifestyle clips, luxury fashion, behind the scenes moments. Her personality fit naturally into the fast-paced environment. Follower counts skyrocketed. Brand deals multiplied. Luxury trips, designer outfits, high-profile collaborations. From the outside, it looked like the perfect success story. A creator who had overcome adversity, built a massive audience, and transformed personal passion into a global career. But internet fame has a way of changing expectations. The larger the audience becomes, the more intensely every decision is examined. Every collaboration, every tweet, every interview, every video. Soon, the spotlight that had helped build Nikita's career could begin revealing a very different side of internet fame. And the controversies that followed could become just as famous as the success that came before. The price of becoming a brand. Success on social media doesn't just change your popularity, it changes your entire life. As Nikita Dragun's audience continued to grow, her name became more than just an online personality. It became a brand. Companies wanted partnerships. Fashion labels invited her to exclusive events. Luxury hotels flew influencers around the world. Magazine interviews became routine. Millions of followers watched every outfit, every makeup look, every vacation, and every glamorous moment she chose to share. To many people, It looked like she was living the dream. But behind every perfectly edited post, there was growing pressure. Because when your image becomes your business, every public decision suddenly carries enormous consequences. One mistake can cost millions of dollars. Building Dragun Beauty. In Nihoncha Michin, Nikita introduced one of the biggest projects of her career, her own cosmetics company.
Dragun Beauty. Unlike many influencer brands at the time, Nikita explained that her products were designed with transgender women in mind, while also being suitable for anyone who loved makeup. It was an ambitious vision. She wasn't simply promoting someone else's products anymore. She was building a company with her own name attached to it. Fans rushed to support the launch. Beauty creators reviewed the products. News outlets covered the release. For a moment, it seemed like Nikita had successfully made the transition from influencer to entrepreneur. It was another reminder of how dramatically the influencer industry had changed. Creators were no longer just making videos. They were launching businesses, building companies, creating brands that extended far beyond social media. Living under a microscope. The larger Nikita's audience became, the less privacy she had. Millions of people analyzed everything she posted, every Instagram story, every TikTok, every photograph. Even a short comment could become the subject of countless reaction videos. Supporters celebrated her confidence. Critics questioned her decisions. Some admired her willingness to speak openly. Others felt her online persona had become increasingly extravagant. Regardless of the opinion, the discussions never seemed to stop. This is one of the hidden realities of internet fame. People don't simply watch your content. They begin building opinions about your entire personality, sometimes based on only a few minutes of video. The world stops then. Hanging Homcham Haimui changed everything. The COVID-19 pandemic reshaped daily life across the globe. Businesses closed. Travel stopped. Millions of people remained at home. Social media usage exploded. At the same time, public expectations also changed.
Influencers were no longer judged only by entertainment. People also began paying close attention to how public figures behaved during a global crisis. It was an environment where every public appearance, every trip, and every gathering received intense scrutiny. Nikita found herself caught in that environment. Several of her public activities during this period sparked criticism online. Some people argued that influencers should set a better example. Others defended her, saying that internet audiences were becoming increasingly unforgiving. The debate spread quickly across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. For Nikita, it was another reminder that being constantly visible also meant being constantly judged. #Fame attracts criticism. As her influence continued to grow, so did the number of people discussing her. Reaction channels produced countless videos.
Commentary creators analyzed her career. Entertainment websites reported on nearly every major development. Some praised her achievements, others focused almost entirely on controversy. This wasn't unique to Nikita. Many of the internet's biggest personalities experienced the same cycle. Rapid success, constant attention, growing criticism, endless public debate. The larger the audience, the louder every opinion becomes. Unfortunately, social media algorithms often reward controversy just as much as popularity.
sometimes even more. The pressure to stay relevant. Online fame moves incredibly fast. Today's biggest creator can easily become tomorrow's forgotten headline. Nikita understood that. She continued producing content, attending events, working with brands, expanding her business, trying new creative ideas. But remaining relevant on the internet requires constant reinvention. Audiences always want something new, something bigger, something more surprising. For creators, that pressure never truly disappears. And over time, it can become exhausting, especially when millions of strangers expect perfection. The beginning of a different chapter. By this point, Nikita Dragun had already accomplished what many creators only dream about. Millions of followers, international recognition, a successful beauty brand, a place among the biggest names in influencer culture. But success did not shield her from criticism. If anything, it magnified it. Because the higher someone rises online, the more intensely the public watches every step they take. And soon, a series of highly publicized incidents, heated online debates, and personal challenges would push Nikita into the most difficult chapter of her public life. The headlines became larger. The criticism became louder. And the internet, once eager to celebrate her success, began asking a very different question. What was happening to Nikita Dragun? When the headlines changed. For years, Nikita Dragun had become one of the most recognizable faces in the beauty world. Millions of followers, a successful cosmetics brand, luxury fashion events, celebrity friendships. From the outside, it looked like an unstoppable career. But internet fame has a strange habit. The same attention that builds a career can also magnify every mistake. And by the early Haining Homcham Haimui, the conversations surrounding Nikita were changing. People were no longer talking only about makeup, or fashion, or beauty tutorials. Increasingly, the headlines focused on controversy. Living under constant scrutiny. Every influencer eventually discovers the same truth. The larger the audience, the less room there is for error. A comment made in seconds can be discussed for weeks. A short video can become the subject of thousands of reaction posts. Every appearance, every collaboration, every interview was analyzed by millions of people. Some viewers defended Nikita. Others criticized her decisions. Many discussions spread rapidly across TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. As her public profile continued growing, the line between genuine criticism, online speculation, and viral outrage often became difficult to separate. For creators living in that environment, every day can feel unpredictable. The pressure of always being on. Being an influencer is different from most careers. There are no clear working hours, no weekends, no real privacy. Your audience expects new content. Brands expect professionalism. Algorithms reward consistency. And the internet never sleeps. Nikita frequently shared glamorous moments, luxury vacations, designer clothing, photo shoots, exclusive events. But behind those carefully produced images came the constant expectation to remain interesting, to remain relevant, to remain visible. Because disappearing for even a short time often leads to one unavoidable question: what happened? A different kind of fame. Unlike movie stars, social media creators live much closer to their audiences. Followers comment directly, send messages, offer praise, offer criticism, sometimes both at the same time. Supporters admired Nikita's confidence and her willingness to express herself without apology. Many viewed her as an inspiration, especially people who saw parts of their own journey reflected in hers. At the same time, others strongly disagreed with aspects of her public image or content. These disagreements often became major online discussions. Whether positive or negative, Nikita remained one of the internet's most talked about personalities. When personal struggles become public, one of the most difficult parts of internet fame is that personal challenges rarely stay private. Over time, Nikita spoke publicly about dealing with emotional pressure and mental health struggles. She described periods of intense stress, the demands of constant visibility, and the emotional weight that can come with millions of strangers forming opinions about your life. For many fans, these moments revealed a different side of the person they had followed for years. Not the glamorous influencer, not the celebrity, but someone trying to navigate extraordinary pressure. It reminded audiences that behind every carefully edited video, there is still a human being. The incident that made international headlines. Then came one of the most widely reported moments of Nikita's public life.
In late 2022, multiple news organizations reported that Nikita had been arrested following an incident at a hotel in Miami. The event quickly became international news. Videos, articles, commentary channels, social media discussions. The story spread across the internet within hours. As with many high-profile incidents involving public figures, public reactions were immediate and deeply divided. Some focused on the legal aspects of the case. Others expressed concern for Nikita's well-being. Her representatives later issued public statements raising concerns about how she had been treated while in custody. The incident became the subject of widespread media coverage and public discussion. For Nikita, it marked one of the most difficult periods of her public career. Regardless of where people stood, the headlines overshadowed nearly everything else happening in her professional life. When the brand becomes vulnerable. Public controversies
rarely affect only a creator's reputation, they can also affect businesses, partnerships, collaborations, future opportunities. Brands carefully evaluate public perception. Companies often avoid uncertainty. For someone whose personal identity is closely connected to a business, every controversy carries additional weight. Dragun Beauty had once represented one of influencer culture's biggest success stories. But maintaining a cosmetics company in an increasingly competitive industry proved challenging. The beauty market evolved rapidly. Consumer habits changed. Competition intensified. Like many influencer-led brands, the company faced significant business challenges over time. For Nikita, the entrepreneurial dream became far more complicated than it had first appeared. The internet moves on. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of online fame is how quickly attention shifts. Only a few years earlier, Nikita had appeared almost everywhere. Every platform, every beauty event, every influencer conversation. Now, new creators dominated recommendation pages. New trends replaced old ones. Audiences moved forward. This happens to nearly every internet celebrity, not because they suddenly lose talent, but because the internet constantly searches for something new. For many creators, adapting to that reality becomes one of the greatest challenges of all. And for Nikita, the question was no longer how to become famous. It was something much more difficult. How do you redefine yourself after years of living in the public spotlight? That question would shape the next chapter of her story. Rebuilding after the storm. One of the greatest misconceptions about internet fame is that every story ends with either total success or complete failure. Real life is rarely that simple. After years of dominating headlines, Nikita entered a very different chapter, a quieter one. Instead of constantly appearing in every viral discussion, she became more selective about what she shared publicly. For someone who had spent years living under an almost permanent spotlight, that change was significant. It suggested something many creators eventually discover. Fame can be exciting, but peace can be far more valuable. Hashtag when the internet finds someone new. The internet never stops moving. Every day, new creators appear, new trends emerge, new personalities capture millions of views. The audience's attention shifts faster than ever before. For many influencers, this transition can feel frightening. One year, you're everywhere. The next, people begin asking, whatever happened to them? Nikita experienced that same cycle. She was no longer the newest creator, no longer the fastest growing beauty influencer. The online world that once revolved around beauty creators had expanded into countless new communities. Lifestyle, gaming, comedy, short-form storytelling, artificial intelligence. The landscape had changed, and every creator had to decide whether to keep chasing algorithms or build something that could survive beyond them. The lessons of public life. Looking back at Nikita's career, one thing becomes clear. Success on social media is about far more than numbers. Followers can increase overnight. They can also disappear. Brands can celebrate you. They can also move on. The internet rewards speed, but real life demands resilience. Nikita's journey demonstrates just how complicated online influence can become. She achieved extraordinary visibility, built a recognizable brand, inspired many people to express themselves with confidence. At the same time, she also experienced intense public criticism, constant scrutiny, and the pressure that comes from having millions of strangers watching every decision. Few careers involve that level of exposure. Even fewer people are fully prepared for it. Beyond the controversies, it is easy for the internet to reduce someone's entire life to a handful of headlines. One controversy, one viral clip, one difficult moment. But no person's story is ever that small. Long before the headlines, Nikita was a young person searching for identity. Long before the luxury lifestyle, she was learning makeup alone. Long before becoming a public figure, she was simply trying to build confidence. Those chapters often receive far less attention than controversy. Yet, they are just as important, perhaps even more important, because they explain not only how someone becomes successful, but also why they continue moving forward after setbacks. The human behind the influencer. Social media encourages us to see polished versions of people, perfect lighting, perfect photos, perfect lives. But perfection has never truly existed. Behind every influencer, there is a real person. Someone with fears, someone with ambitions, someone who makes mistakes, someone who continues learning. Whether people admired Nikita, criticized her, or simply watched from a distance, her story became part of a much larger conversation about internet culture itself. How much privacy should public figures have? How quickly should people be judged? Can someone truly grow after making mistakes? These questions extend far beyond one creator. They reflect the challenges faced by an entire generation living online. Hashtag, where is Nikita Dragun today? Today, Nikita Dragun continues to maintain a public presence, although it is different from the years when she dominated beauty headlines. She remains active on social media. She occasionally shares updates with her audience. She continues exploring creative projects while keeping more of her personal life away from constant public attention. Her influence today may look different from the explosive growth she experienced during the peak of the beauty influencer era. But influence is not always measured by daily headlines. Sometimes it is measured by the conversations a person helped begin. For many followers, Nikita represented confidence, self-expression, and the courage to live authentically. For others, her career became a reminder of the extraordinary pressures that accompany internet fame. Both perspectives now form part of her legacy. The internet never forgets, but it does move on.
Perhaps the most powerful lesson in Nikita Dragun's story is that the internet has a remarkable memory. Old videos remain online. Old interviews resurface. Past decisions are revisited. Nothing truly disappears. And yet, despite remembering everything, the internet always moves forward. Today's biggest story becomes tomorrow's forgotten trend. The cycle repeats, again and again. Very few creators manage to stay at the center of attention forever. The challenge is not remaining famous. The challenge is discovering who you are, once the spotlight begins to fade. The final chapter. So, who is Nikita Dragun? Is she the beauty creator who built a global audience from makeup tutorials? The entrepreneur who launched her own cosmetics company? The The influencer who inspired countless people to embrace their identities? Or the public figure whose controversies often overshadowed her accomplishments? The answer
is probably all of them, because human lives cannot be summarized by a single headline, or one controversy, or one viral moment. They are built from thousands of choices, thousands of victories, thousands of difficult days that the audience never sees. Nikita's story is ultimately not just about fame. It is about identity, reinvention, public pressure, and the complicated relationship between creators and the audiences who watch them. Millions of people followed her rise. Millions witnessed her most difficult moments. And today, her journey remains one of the most recognizable examples of how quickly internet celebrity can change. Perhaps that is the real lesson behind her story. The internet can make someone famous overnight, but it cannot decide who that person becomes afterward. Only they can do that. Thank you for listening. And remember, behind every trending name, every viral video, and every controversial headline, there is always a human story waiting to be understood. Sometimes that story is far more complicated than the internet ever allowed.